Have you ever wondered how to set goals in a way that actually leads to long-term success and minimizes unnecessary stress? In this episode, I'm going to teach you my Hexagon of Competence framework, an intentional and strategic approach to goal setting that ensures balance across all 6 areas of life. By the end of this episode, you'll have a clear plan to make 2025 your most meaningful and well-rounded year yet. Let's kick off the new year with purpose and direction. Before we dive in, if you're listening on the Apple Podcasts app or on Spotify, make sure you hit the follow button. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit like and subscribe down below. Holy smokes. Happy freaking new year, everybody. I am so excited for 2025. Anytime a new calendar year comes around, I am just stoked because I've got clarity, I've got vision, I've got direction, and I've got motivation for how I'm going to make this year the best and most intentional year yet. And I'm going to provide the same level of motivation and direction and clarity for you during this podcast episode, because over the last 5 years, I have used the same framework to plan out my calendar year, to plan out each quarter of the year, to plan out each week of my year, and then therefore each day of my year. And so I'm really excited to bring that to you guys today, breaking down the 6 areas of life: your health, your personal, your career, your finances, your spiritual life, and your relationships. By the end of this episode, you're going to understand how you're allocating your time, energy, and attention across these areas and how to do it more intentionally so that you feel like you're always in control, so that you feel like you're growing in particular areas that you want to grow in, and you're managing the chaos in the other areas of life that you're just managing the chaos in. But before we dive in, I want you guys to make sure you book a free call with me. Go to nickcarrier.com to book a free call with me so I can understand where you're currently at with your health and fitness, and I can help you make that next jump, to help you take it to the next level. No judgment on the calls, just excited to hop on with you and figure out how I can help you go from point A to point B. But so you go to nickcarrier.com to book that call. But for now, let's dive into the Hexagon of Competence, how I go about my goal setting for each calendar year. So I'm going to give you some greater context before I dive into the specific thing. So the way that I came up with this about 5 years ago is to really have like deep journaling by asking myself questions. And one of the first questions that I asked myself is I think subconscious question that all of us are always asking ourselves is, what's the best way to live life? Right? Isn't that kind of like, to some extent, the same question that all of us are asking ourselves all the time? What's the best way to live life? Like, that's almost the underlying question to every single action or every single decision that we have to make. What's the best way to live life? And my big picture answer to that, and this is my belief for myself and for everybody, is that the best way to live your life is to get closer to the best version of yourself, is to actively be working on getting closer to the best version of yourself. Now, I'm not going to go too much down the spiritual rabbit hole yet, or on this episode, but like, think about it. If Jesus is the ideal, if you're a Christian, if Jesus is the ideal and he is the ultimate best version of a human being, and we are meant to become more Christ-like, more Jesus-like, then we should try to manifest our own version of that, our own best version of ourselves, our own ideal. And to me, that I had this idea before I kind of connected it to faith, but that's how I almost connect it and really feel even more convicted by this idea. So the best way to live life is to get closer to the best version of yourself and to actively be working on that. And then the next follow-up question that I asked myself was like, what does that mean? What does the best version of yourself mean? Like, what is the definition of your best you? And so the definition that I have come up with is the following: the best version of yourself is the version of you who is most competent and reciprocal. The 2 words being competent and reciprocal. To continue, that is the version of you who can solve the greatest number of problems and take advantage of the greatest number of opportunities, both for yourself and others. Now, let me, again, kind of dive into that definition a little bit further. The best version of you is the version of you who is most competent and reciprocal. What does it mean to have competence? In my eyes, competence is your ability to solve problems and take advantage of opportunities. It means you have a certain level of knowledge, skills, and experience so that you can solve problems and take advantage of opportunities. So that's kind of competence. And then the other part of the best version of yourself is you're competent and you're reciprocal. Reciprocal means that You don't just solve problems and take advantage of opportunities for yourself. You also do that for other people. You don't just become the best version of yourself so your life is great. You become the best version of yourself so that you can help other people solve their problems and make their life as great and allow them to get closer to the best version of themselves as well. So your best you is the version of you who is most competent and reciprocal, who can solve the greatest number of problems, take advantage of the greatest number of opportunities, both for yourself and others. Okay, what's the next question? Where do we experience problems and opportunities in our life? And the way that I look at it is we experience problems and opportunities in 6 areas of life: in our health, in our career, in our personal lives, in our spiritual lives, our finances, and our relationships. Our health, our personal lives, our career, our finances, our spiritual life, and our relationships. You can write those 6 down. In each of those 6 areas, we experience problems, and we also have opportunities. And when you look at these 6 areas, we're all currently, mostly subconsciously, allocating a certain amount of time, energy, and attention across these 6 areas. So those are our kind of our finite resources as human beings: our time, our energy, and our attention. And we are kind of spreading that across those 6 areas. So like if we were just to use the analogy of we have 100 units of time, energy, and attention, because a finite resources has a finite number of units, if you will. So we have 100 units of time, energy, and attention. Some people are putting 80 units into their career and 10 units into their health and maybe 5 units into their personal life and maybe 2 units into their health and maybe 2 more units into their faith. And you decide how you want to spread out your units across those 6 different areas. But you need to do it in a way that actually makes life meaningful, allows you to be happy, allows you to be fulfilled. And so each of us, depending on our interests, our skills, our experience, our knowledge, are going to allocate different amounts of time, energy, and attention to different areas of life. So none of us are going to look the same. The point is that not all of us look the same, that all of us are intentional about how we allocate ours. And so here's how we get into the goal setting part of things. So I'm going to kind of dive into the practical part of things. How do we use this framework of getting closer to the best version of ourselves, the 6 areas of our life, and competence? How do we use that to create goals for the calendar year? Here's what I would first off recommend. First step is to look at the 6 different areas of life, write them down, and give yourself a rating. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 being this area of my life is exactly where I want it to be right now. 1 being this area of my life is nowhere near where I want it to be right now. Rate yourself in each of the 6 areas from a 1 to a 5. You can pause the episode if you want to do that. Once you've done it, look at your ratings. And then, in my opinion, you should set goals in one of those areas. And the area in which you set a goal should be either one of 2 things. The area where you're most frustrated. The area that you're a 1. If you're a 1 in multiple areas or a 2 in multiple areas, you got to pick one. I'll get more into that in a second. But we should set a goal in an area where we're most frustrated so we can eradicate that frustration, or set a goal in an area where we are most interested in growing in. Now, what I would say is that if the frustration is large enough, you should pick that. If the frustration is not as large, then maybe you pick the area of your life where you're most interested in growing in and really setting a big goal and really attacking. But I would say think about the area, one of those areas, and pick one to set a goal in, and the words that I use is to spike in. Now, let's zoom back out to the 6 different areas and the time, energy, and attention allocation, if you will. It's my belief that in order to get closer to the best version of ourselves, we should be managing all 6 areas of our life at any given point in time, but we should also be spiking in one. I think we have the capacity to spike in one. Now, what does spiking mean? Spiking means we're allocating a certain amount of time, energy, and attention in an area of life that is more than we would typically allocate in order to either A, eradicate a big frustration, or B, experience a lot of personal growth in. And we don't have the capacity to spike in all of them. We have a finite amount of time, energy, and attention, so we have to pick one. That doesn't mean the other areas go by the wayside, because really that's how most people get themselves in big trouble in life, is they're not spending any attention in one area of their life. And what I like to say is the magnitude of the consequence is going to be directly correlated to the period of neglect. So if you neglect an area of your life for a particular point in time, there's probably going to be negative consequences. Again, the magnitude of the consequence is going to be directly correlated to the duration of neglect. So for example, if somebody ignores their health for 6 weeks, negative consequences probably aren't going to be that big. If somebody ignores their health for 6 years, the negative consequences are probably going to be a little bit bigger. If they ignore it for 6 decades, obviously huge. And so we always want to make sure that we're never completely neglecting any of the areas of life. We want to be what I call managing those areas of life. And I'm going to get back to managing here in a little bit. And so we want to pick the one of the 6 areas in which we want to spike in with the goal of eradicating a frustration or experiencing a lot of growth in. So that's kind of the outline of how this looks. What I would say is, before you get too metric oriented, before you start putting numbers to your goals or anything like that, I would say to look at the rating of each of the 6 areas of your life and come up with a progress statement. What I mean by that is, if an area of your life is currently at a 2, and by the end of the year or by the end of the quarter, you really want that area of your life to look like a 3, write out a statement saying what that means. What would need to be true for you to go from a 2 to a 3 in that area of your life? What would it need to look like if you were going from a 3 to a 5? What would need to happen? What would need to be true? Come up with a statement that assumes progress. Come up with a statement that would allow you to make progress in that area of your life. And once you have a progress statement for each of those 6 areas, then you pick out the area you want to spike in, and you spike in that area for Q1 of 2025. I think 12 weeks is a great timeline, so it's not long enough where you can stay focused, or it's not short enough, I should say. Let's stay with that, start with that side of things. It's not short enough, or it's not too short to where you don't have enough time to really experience a lot of growth. And it's not too long to where you lose focus. Let me say that again, because that took me a second. It's not too short to where you're not going to actually get any real results. And it's not too long to where you're going to lose focus. 12 weeks, 1 quarter is a great amount of time to get meaningful results and to stay focused. And so ask yourself, okay, this area of life that I'm spiking in, what is my goal for the next quarter? What is my goal for the next 3 months? What does the finish line look like? What would success look like in this area of my life when I wake up come April 1st, 2025? Because that's the end of Q1, beginning of Q2. What would need to be true when I wake up on April 1st, 2025? And then come up with a goal based off of that. Now, once you come up with a goal in the spike area of your life, you also want to define what managing means in the other areas of your life. And managing just means like, what do I need to do in order to stay afloat? Maybe it's habits that you want to have in those areas of your life. Maybe it's just a to-do list that you have in those areas of your life to help you out a little bit. Like for me, currently, one of the things that I'm doing just to manage the spiritual area of my life is every morning I spend about anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes on my Bible app and praying. Then every Sunday, I go to church. If I'm not in town, then I listen to church. And those 2 habits are what, in my eyes, defines managing the spiritual area of my life. I feel like it keeps me engaged. I feel like it keeps me feeling meaning in that area of life and not letting that area of my life fall behind. And so that's what managing means for that area. When it comes to my financial area of my life, what does managing looks like? It looks like, one, having what I call a personal CFO meeting every single week, meaning that I'm just analyzing Nick Carrier's finances and Nick and Kennedy Carrier's finances. And then having also a best use CFO meeting every single week, because I'm acting as the current best use CFO. So I'm looking at those finances. So if I can have a weekly personal CFO and weekly best use CFO meeting every single week, that allows me to manage that area of my life. Now, of course, there's going to be other things that come up on a on a week by week basis of things that I need to do to manage that area of my life. Like when I'm currently recording this, we're getting ready to move into a new house. And so this week I had to ensure that I had the right amount of money in our checking account in order to wire it over for our closing costs. And so I wrote that down on my to-do list. And so on a week by week basis, there's going to be additional things to help manage that area of your life. But you can also come up with habits on a weekly basis or daily basis for these different areas that allows you to manage them. So the way I want to wrap this up is giving an overview. What's the best way to live life? In my eyes, and I hope that some of you, if not all of you, agree, is to actively work on getting closer to the best version of yourself. What does that mean? It means to be more competent and more reciprocal. It means having the knowledge, skills, and experience to solve your own problems and take advantage of the own opportunities, and also do that for other people as well. And we experience problems and opportunities in 6 areas of our life: our health, our personal life, our career, our finances, our spiritual life, and our relationships. And so we need to take an assessment of where do we stand in these 6 areas. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 being I'm crushing it. 1 being, man, I kind of suck in this area of your life right now. Look yourself in the mirror, maybe not actually, but look at yourself in the mirror in those 6 areas and ask yourself, where is my current level of performance? Then realize that, okay, we can't take all of these to a 5 simultaneously. We can't have a huge goal in all of these simultaneously because we have the finite resources of time, energy, and attention. And we have to be intentional about how we allocate that time, energy, and attention to these 6 different areas of our life. And so pick one area that is super frustrating for you right now, or one area where you're really interested in growing a lot in right now, and pick that as your spike area, your spike goal. Then define what managing means in all of the other areas and make sure you have a progress statement for all other areas of your life. This will allow you to have clarity for how you're going to progress in all areas of your life so that you are the best version of yourself, you're intentional, and that you're well-rounded. Because the last thing that you want to do is neglect an area of your life for a prolonged period of time, because I promise you negative consequences are coming. And you don't want that, because the magnitude of the consequence will be directly correlated to the period of neglect. I hope this gives you some clarity. I am obsessed with this framework myself. I spent 3 hours last week doing some of this work on myself. I'm going to be spending more time here in the near future to do more of it for myself. I'm recording this before January 1st, so I've already, by the time you're listening to it, have everything laid out for my Q1 and for my 2025. And so I want that to be the same for you, because I love it when people are motivated. And people are motivated when they are seeing themselves making progress on their own goals, which means you need a goal in the first place. And then you need a means through which you can see your progress, which is what this is all about. So I hope this provided you with some clarity. Hope this provided you with some insight, and hope you take action on doing some of these exercises that I just laid out for you here today. Remember to book a free call with me. Go to nickcarrier.com and we'll hop on a call. I want to hear where you're currently at with your health and fitness, and we'll kind of do a similar thing. Rate yourself 1 to 5 on your current level of fitness, on your current nutrition. And then I'll be like, okay, you're currently at a 2. How can we take it to a 3? How can we take it to a 3.5? And we'll come up with a strategy so that you have a clear path for how you can feel better and look the way you want to look. So go to nickcarrier.com and book a free call with me today. Happy New Year's, you guys. I appreciate you tuning into the episode. If you're listening on the Apple Podcast or up on Spotify, then hit the follow button, because I want you to stay tuned all throughout 2025. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button down below. Other than that, though, Happy New Year's. Happy 2025. Let's go freaking get it so that you can be the best you've ever been, but the worst you'll ever be.